Hello and welcome to Lee Stafford Education Live. I'm Lee Stafford and I'm going to be your host today as normal. And we have a very special staff that I know you all know very well. Paul Watts, who is a multi-award winning salon owner, hairdresser. He's a Joico artist. He's a YouTube star these days. I mean, there's nothing that Paul is not doing at the moment. He's a very talented guy. One of our very special staffs that goes into the colleges and works with the college trainers. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you again the fantastic Paul Watts. Take it away, Paul.
Thank you, mate. Pleasure. Absolute pleasure to be here with everybody. My last live was in June for Lee Stafford, and it's something I really look forward to. I'll just give you a little bit about me, but some of you should know because I've been on enough of these and I've probably been into your college, but I know there's a lot of new colleges as well. So in the chat box, if you just want to put in where you're from, I see Bon has already put a little comment in there saying hello from Chichester, and that was my first college that I was at. So my name's Paul Watts. I'm a salon owner and I'm from the Midlands of the country of England. I've been working with Lee now since 2013, I think it is. And absolutely flown by. Flown by. But
come a long way in that 8 years, Paul.
Yeah. I mean, when Lee came into the salon in 2013, I was on my third salon opening, but they were all like a small little boutique, and I opened 4 salons. Then I closed 2 just before lockdown. Actually, two people came in to buy the smaller ones, and I've still got the 2 big ones that I relocated. So yeah, I'm still a behind the chair stylist. Still work 5 days of the week if I can, but mainly it's 4 days of the week if I'm not traveling or doing this education. But it's something that has always been the backbone and the foundation and the fundamental of my brand was education. I felt at college that I missed out a little bit. I didn't get given the education that I thrived for. That I didn't. I don't know. There was just back then the education just wasn't what I was going for. And there's one story that I always tell, and it's about about cutting a bob. And I remember I went in one day. One of the college tutors taught me to cut it one way. Went the following week, someone showed me another way, then another way. And before I could cut a bob, I was learning 3 bobs. So that's one of the things that really confused me with college. And then talking about color was just a completely different world to me. So there was a lot of private what's the word I'm looking for? I went on a lot of private courses.
Yeah,
investment, that's the word I was looking for. Private investment from me to go on courses, and started off with myhairdressers.com that Lee was a big part of, and just watching YouTube. So it's amazing how it's just all come back around to me starting learning from YouTube to now teaching you guys on YouTube on lives. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here today.
It's great to have you here, Paul.
Thank you, mate. It's something I look forward to. Really enjoy. I really enjoy these masterclasses because we can strip it right back to the fundamentals, but we do put a twist on them every single time when we're doing the masterclasses. Unlike the recipes that you learn, which are the omelette analogy, which is like my bob, where I learned 3 different bobs. The omelette analogy, if any of the staffs come into your college, you know you're going to get the fundamental foundation recipe from front page to back page, exactly the same. And that's what sets us apart when it comes to educating you guys going forward. So let's see in the chat box, guys. Just get your comments in there if you can. Just like a little emoji. If you want to put an emoji in there, just put a little emoji. It's good to see who has joined us today. But today's cut is the 1 length below. And this may seem very foundational, very simple. Whenever you sort of say to somebody, I'm just gonna put a 1 length in, they think, oh, you're gonna trim my hair. It can't be that hard to put a 1 length line in. But little do they know, it's really hard. I think it was one of the haircuts I really struggled with at college, getting the balance, understanding why did my right side go up a little bit. I'm right-handed, by the way. Could any of you tell me that in the comments? Why might my right-hand side have been popping up slightly when I was learning? But we do a twist. So I'm just going to introduce you to my lovely models. I'm going to show you the finished result, but I'm still going to refine it for you live at the end. We've got the one who is semi there. I'm going to be cutting her for you live. And then this one here is the long grad, which we bring all forward 45 degrees, and then we cut up, and then we get that beautiful shape that you can see the symmetry on that just cascades around the face. And that's what I've also used today to add a little bit of a twist to the one length below. So I'm just going to show you. So the one length below is an absolute salon classic. And there she is. You can see how that just sways, and the strength we've got in that perimeter is something else. One of the big things for me with our one length below is, can you see that slight angle that's just dropping down there? And that's because we bring all the hair back to a position and it gives us a bit of an A-line shape. So we're cutting from here and it just cascades and just melts over the shoulder. And it's one of the biggest haircuts I do in the salon, whether it's up here, 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 or here. I like to put A-line shapes in because I just think it sits better over the shoulder. I think that little bit of length at the front just adds something, a little bit sort of like coming around here. I think it sits perfectly. And then this fringe, I'm going to show you how to put a fringe in super, super simply. So my sectioning on here is just a twist on our normal one length below. But this fringe here is cut in with our uniform layer, long grad. So what we did, we put our point in on the bridge of the nose and I just picked it up and then cut it. And then it just fell beautifully like that. So you've got the edges which are coming around there that are a little bit longer, like the bangs that everyone's going for at the minute. Yeah. So that is the finished result.
Where did you get that mannequin head? It looks different, Paul.
I just get sent them. So this mannequin head, I'm not too sure. I mean, they're super long, and the length of her neck is something else as well. But yeah, this mannequin, I'll find out for you. Is she underneath?
It's not a pivot.
No, it's not a pivot. It doesn't. No, just says Randy, but I think that's her name.
Right.
So I'll find out for you though, because these are super long.
And are they real hair then ones?
Yeah, 100% hair. 100% real hair. And you can see on this length here. So I'm going to, once I start, I'll pull the camera down slightly so you can see where I'm going to be cutting nice and clearly. But let's start with the sectioning pattern. But is there any questions or anything coming in, guys? If you want to, you can throw anything at us with the questions.
Just getting a lot of hello and hi, and from Bon, Ellie, Laura, Tracy, Anna.
Cool.
We're getting a lot of hellos. Thanks,
welcome,
guys.
Welcome. I'll take this off so you can just see the sectioning pattern, and you'll see that there is a slight difference to our normal sectioning pattern that we do with the one length below, and it's that just there, that triangle that's sitting just there is the only bit that's different, because that's going to be the bit that we use for our long grad. We're going to be pulling it out, and that's going to create that bangs fringe area. The rest is all sectioned out as we do. So recession, taken back to just below the crown, and then from just in front of the ear, we do a diagonal line to that point there, you can see. And then from that point there, we then follow to there again. And then we work from the occipital bone, just there, to the middle of the ear. And that is our sectioning done. And I know Lee says in the video, it's like a work of art, it's a bit of architecture. And it is. You start doing that for your clients, and they start to think, wow, this is a bit special. And they know they're going to get a really good haircut. Look, if you're that precise with your sectioning, what's your haircut going to be like?
So Anna's asked, what made you want to be a hairdresser? From Chichester College. Thank you for that question, Anna.
Thank you for the question. That's a great question, to be honest. What made me want to be a hairdresser? To be honest, I got into hairdressing quite late. I got into it when I was 21, and it was something that I wanted to be. I went to university. So I went to university first. I was footballer before that. And I did creative design with marketing. I thought I wanted to be like a merchandiser. I wanted to make things look good, basically, is what I thought I wanted to do. Didn't know what area of my life or any industry. And then when I was at university, we were getting briefs of 6 months. We could design something for 6 months. And it was too long. My sort of creative process was working in sort of seconds and minutes. And I was like, oh, no, I don't want 6 months of this. I want to get something straight away. And that's where I really sort of went when I was going to hairdressers and then seeing friends and that going hairdressers and thinking, well, yeah, you go in there with a brief, your haircut, you sit down in a chair, you tell the stylist thinks up like that. It's like, right, I know what's going to look great on you. And then you do it, and you're creating this creative process, creating a work of art on somebody's head. So that's what really intrigued me into hairdressing, to get into hairdressing, because it was a case of, well, maybe because the results are so immediate, maybe that's what I'll do. So that's what got me into it.
And how's it been, Paul? How long have you been in hair for now?
I've been doing hair now for 15 years.
For 15 years. Was there ever a time when you felt about giving up?
No, never. But just recently, what we were talking about earlier, I've just recovered from a prolapse disc and a bulging disc in my back.
Yeah.
And there was conversations of, God, I don't know if you're going to be able to get back into hair, because it was so bad, which was a real sort of, well, I just didn't really know what to do, to be honest. I was
that was your health more than anything. I mean, you never wanted to give up because hairdressing's driven you crazy. You didn't like it.
Well, no. I mean, I put a post up last night on Instagram, didn't I? And I said about my working week is basically, well, a 7-day week, but I do sort of 2 jobs, 3 jobs in that week. So educating with Lee, educating for Joyco, working in the salon, YouTube, and then running a business. That's what I do, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I absolutely love it.
So it's made you happy and content being a hairdresser?
Yeah. 100%. It gives me when it was lockdown, I felt like I didn't have a purpose. So that's why I got into YouTube. And hairdressing does give me a purpose. It gives me something. It makes people feel good. Makes me feel good. Making people feel good. It gives me a great feeling when I get to educate people and help the next sort of like generation of hairdressers and people that want to progress. And like in the future, maybe it's not so much hair, but I've got courses booked now to sort of teach people how to get to YouTube and how to grow channels and that sort of thing now, which are sort of getting booked. So yeah, I'll be educating as long as I can, and it will be all of this industry.
And has it been financially kind to you as well?
What, YouTube?
No, just hairdressing in general. Because people talk about,
I see what you mean. Yeah, they talk about hairdressing, how well, yeah, you talk to anybody, oh, you're going to be a hairdresser, like, oh, but yeah, there's as much money in the industry as you want to make. There's endless amounts of opportunities. You can educate, become an artist, you can brand ambassador, you can work overseas, you can do online, you can be selling courses, you can work in the salon as much as you want. There's so much opportunity out there for you guys. You can work on movies, sets, music videos, everything. Absolutely everything. So we'll carry on chatting, but I'm just going to pop this length in. I'm just going to tell you how I'm starting. So you can see the length there. Just make sure that you can. So when we're cutting here, and this is what I was hinting to at the beginning, is why was my right-hand side always a little bit sort of higher sometimes a bit lower? Why could I never get that balance there? And the secret to it is the inside-out method. So when we cut hair, let's bring it down, and then we're going to look. Let's cut it. Can you see that length? Yeah, good length. We're going to cut a good, what's that? About 6 inches off of my mannequin. And we're just putting that nice blunt line in there. Let me just spin her because that black thing is in the way. Let me know if you can all see okay in the comments. If not, I'll do my best to move it around. So I've put my length in there, which is just there. And we're going to use our comb. And we're going to pull this. And we're not going to cut around the corner. We're going to pull that back to our guide that we just cut. Because what that will do then, that's how we get that A-line shape. So you see that? I've pulled it back to there, which is straight with my section. If I was cutting it off, you'd see my hand disappear around there. So we're just going to pull this back. And then we're just going to cut along there. And let me know, do I need to switch angles so you can see?
Maybe a little bit.
When I'm doing this side, I'll switch. But this side is what I wanted to show you, is the inside out method. So we pull this down. And traditionally or fundamentally, you'd probably get people and they'd do this, and they'd cut in from the outside, but we don't really know where our guide is when we're here because we're cutting blind. We'd probably grab that and be like, oh, there's my guide. Right, let's cut that across. Oh, it's shorter or it's longer. If it's longer, then we don't mind because we can take some more off. But if it's shorter, we've then got to recut back in here again. So that's what we don't want to happen. So
Tracy Richardson says, hi from Chichester College. Have you ever cut celebrities' hair, and what was your best experience? Thanks for that. I haven't. Question. You've never done a celebrity, Paul?
Never. I've done a YouTuber who's quite big. But
yeah. Would you like to do a celebrity?
Yeah, I'd do a celebrity's hair.
Would it make you nervous?
I don't think so.
No?
Nah. I feel very grounded. It would have a few years ago, I think. But I feel very grounded in what I'm doing now. I'm not. Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe the night before I might get a few butterflies, but I don't think I'd be sort of quaking in my boots as such.
All right, I've got another question here from Laura. Not to do with the cut, but I was wondering what was the best way to build a new client as a newly trained hairdresser from Chichester College? Good question, Laura. How did you build your clientele, Paul, and how would you advise Laura to build hers?
Yeah, great question again, and very relevant of what's happening right now. The way that I built my clientele was using social media. So when I qualified, we had MySpace, and I changed. Let me step back a little bit. I made my MySpace. Do you know what MySpace is? I bet you don't. Pop in the comments if you know what MySpace is. I'd like to know. So MySpace was before Facebook, and it was a platform just like where you'd add friends and that sort of thing. But there was a lot of customization with it, and I changed inspired by Lee. I'll add. I changed it to the hairdresser. Probably a bit of copyright in there, but. I changed it to that. So, and my colours were pink, mate. And I don't know if a lot of you know, if you're new colleges, if you're old colleges, you'll probably know. Lee's been a massive inspiration to me getting it. Lee was the reason I picked up a pair of scissors. His TV show on Living TV back in the day, the hairdresser, it just inspired me to be like, right, I could do this. I could do hair. And the reason for that is because I was a bit of a Jack the Lad. I was a footballer. I didn't really see myself fitting into the industry. And when I seen Lee on TV, I thought, well, like there is space for the kind of guy that I am. So that's what inspired me. But yeah, my social media, MySpace was pink and white, and it was called The Hairdresser, and yeah, I used that to try and get clients, and then I took business cards out with me to like on a night out. Where's that there?
And when you was out on a night out, Paul, because let's face it, when you're younger, you're probably out a lot more than when you're older, right? A lot of our students are younger. Was you always kind of, talking about hair, promoting yourself, trying to sort of subconsciously get clients when you was out and about?
Yeah, but not even subconsciously. So I'd walk over to somebody and I'd just say like, oh, I love your hair, but like you could do with a different blonde. Or like I'd get guys come up to me and say, oh, you're a barber. I was like, I'm not a barber, mate. I'm a hairdresser. And he's like, oh, I've heard you're quite good. So I was like, yeah, all right. Like I'll cut your hair sort of thing. And it just progressed to that. And I knew like the DJs and everything, and they'd have business cards and then they'd put them in their booths. But it's all changed now. And that isn't as prevalent as what it was. But what is now that I didn't have is social media. So if you haven't created a social media account for your hair, I know a lot of you have. I see a lot of you posting and tagging like your colleges and hashtagging like Lee Stafford Education and that. But that's your calling card. And if you do one good haircut a week, just post that a week. Don't overfill it with just things that you think, oh, I would change that. As a diary, 100%. That's what I use mine for now. I started my YouTube channel and Instagram as a bit of a diary to show my progression, really. And then it just builds on there. People start to see it and they want you to do their hair. And it just sort of follows on.
But
Hope that helps.
it does help. How driven do you have to be, Paul, on a scale of 1 to 10 to do the things that you're talking about?
What, 10 being driven?
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
You've got to be driven. This has got to be your, if you want to become an artist, you want to become a staff educator, you want to be doing all these things, and like Lee said, celebrity haircuts and that, you've got to make it your life for a number of years, or whenever you're ready to, you've got to put everything into it. I mean, like I just said, my schedule for the week is ridiculous. And
Well, you know what? It's interesting because, you talked earlier about the fact that, you wouldn't change it. You love what you do. I mean, it's so much easier when you love something. It's so much easier to put everything into it, isn't it? I mean, I don't know about you, but the older I get, the more people I see in this world that are doing a job. And let's face it, you go to work for a good 1/3 of your life. They go to work and they're not enjoying it. And how difficult would it be to succeed if you was doing something that you didn't love?
I've got loads of mates like it, and when I started hairdressing, and they started to see that I was enjoying work, and then they'd say, "God, like, you really enjoy what you do." When I'm cutting their hair, and they're like having a chat with them and talk, and then recommending stuff to other people, and there's just this vibe going about the salon or about you. People just sort of warm to it, and they're like, "God, you really love what you do," and they see it, and then that comes across as passionate. They feel it, yeah.
So I've got a question here from Ellie Miller.
Yep.
How was it that you did your first ever haircut from Chichester College? Thank you for that question, Ellie.
How was my first ever haircut?
How was it? Can you remember that?
Yeah, and it wasn't a disaster. The timing was a disaster, but I had a young girl come in. She had hair longer than what this mannequin was, and she wanted a graduated bob. And that was my first ever haircut at college. And I was at college for 3 hours a night. I did night school, Mondays and Tuesday nights. And she came in, her mum said, and it was £4. £4. And all I had was her mum in my ear all the way through it. God, you shouldn't be doing this. You're really slow. God, look, this is taking ages. We need to be out. And then my tutor come over and said, sorry. Like, this is literally his first haircut.
Back off.
Back off, yeah. And that, I mean, I feel that really set me up good stead, where I thrive off of being busy and things happening around me. I really thrive off thinking, like, do you know what I mean? I thrive off like a vibe, and I thrive off. I don't want to say negativity, but she was being very negative, but I sort of thrived off it a bit. That I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to smash this haircut.
Well, that's a pretty great attitude, Paul, to do that, because most people, that's that whole Obama, when they go low, you go high, right?
Yeah.
But it's a lot of the time when they go low, it's quite easy to go low as well, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So, guys, I'm just finishing off this back section, and I'm still bringing this back, so you can see we've got a nice blunt edge there all the way to the middle, and then we've got that real nice guide in there as well. So you can see here, there it is, cutting inside out. My body position and eye level, you want to make sure that your eye level is where you're cutting, so I can see that perfectly. Body position, I've sort of changed it up slightly because I'm trying to show you how I would cut. But if I was to cut this on a client, I'd be centre back, I'd be here, and I wouldn't move. So I'd be working here, cut that in, here, and I would cut that in. I'll be bringing this back section through here, and then we're going to cut that in there, and that's where I would be. But to show you, I'm just having it on the slight angle. Let me just move this mannequin.
Why is it important, Paul, that your body position, your eye level is at that angle? What is the most important reason? Well,
if your eye level is, you're not going to get graduation as such, because if you were above it, I'll show you. So if we're working here and we're cutting in one length and we're doing that and we're pulling it, you can see I'm already creating graduation in that hair. Pull that over a bit, because what I'm doing, instead of it sitting nice and straight like that, As soon as I do that, and then because I'm not down there, as soon as I lift that up, I've created graduation. So what you would end up with is you'd probably end up with the underneath sitting nice and square, but these top bits that we've just put in, they're probably a bit shorter because they're not traveling as far. And then what they're doing is we're flicking it up or we're just pulling it out slightly. I mean, you look at how uneven that looks. Really uneven. But when we bring it down, perfectly straight. I'm just going to move on.
Bond's got a question.
Yep.
Hello, Bond. How you doing, mate? When anyone said you are a great question to Lee, when anyone said you are a great role model for them, like Paul, how do you feel? What is the secret to being a role model for hairdressers? Well, that's a great, deep question, Paul. Bond, sorry. Well, of course, it's always lovely when someone says that. You know, when people like Paul say that, you know, you inspired me to do hair. I mean, you know, it makes you feel fantastic. I mean, who wouldn't feel great when someone says that you've been a good role model or you inspired them? You know, it makes you feel fantastic. Can't lie. And what is the secret to being a role model for hairdressers? That's another great question. I mean, personally, these days, what is the secret? I mean, I think the secret. I was very privileged Friday to go and interview one of my mentors and heroes, John Frieda, and I think he summed it up best. You know, John said that because I asked him. One of the first questions I asked John was, you know, did you ever dream that you would be this successful? John Frieda sold his product line 20 years ago for 450 million. I mean, that's incredibly successful, right? I said to him, did you ever dream you would be that successful? He went, no, I never dreamed that I would be that successful. He said, he says, to be quite honest, I don't really ever think of the future. He said, I don't really ever think of the past either. He said, of course you have to think of the future a little bit, you know, because you have to strategize and make plans. He said, but, you know, I just try to be in the moment all the time. And he says, and being in that moment, he says, I try to do everything to the best of my ability. I try to enjoy everything I'm doing, try to take great pride in everything that I do, even if it's a menial job. And he said, and when you live like that in the moment, he said that everything tends to work out okay. He said, even if you don't end up selling your brand for 450 million, he said, it'll all be all right, you know. I think there's a lot to be said for that, isn't there? You know, I think that it all goes down to the simple fundamentals of life, you know. Like John said, you know, living in that moment, try not to worry about the past or the future, try to do everything to your best ability with great pride, treating people kindly. I mean, it's not a bad start, is it, Paul? What do you reckon?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't believe it's been 20 years since he sold the brand.
20 years. He sold when he was 50 years old. I mean, he's still a young man, really, isn't he? You know, I mean, unbelievable, you know. But yeah, guys, that interview is going to be coming out very, very shortly. And I highly advise all of you to listen to it, because even though John now is a 70-year-old guru, you know, he's not young like a lot of you guys are. His philosophies are very young, and they're very, you know, they make you feel like anything is possible, and you know, we can all be happy and contented just by just giving a little bit more, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Martin's on. Hello, Martin Holmes.
Hello, Mr. Holmes. Right, so I've just finished the sides, guys, and what we were talking about was my body position. So these all come back to this line through here. You'll see it better on the dried one, because I'll be able to show you, you can actually see the slant because it is dry, but there is a slight slant. If we look from there, it just goes down, and when we get that length there, it's just a bit longer through the front. And that's the A-line shape that we'll naturally get when we bring it back. When we pull this back and then cut it at a straight line, we get that little extension over direction slightly of length. And one of the one of the things that I like to do, reason for that is because when a client wears her hair all the way back, it's going to sit nice and square on her jacket, on her top. And it just, you haven't got this sort of tape around here. And I'm not saying that taper isn't something you would do, but if somebody wants it where they always throw it back, especially with this length, they won't be wearing it all suffocating them all the time. Let's just pull that up a little bit. They're going to be wearing it back off of their face, maybe up in a pony. And when we're wearing it up in a ponytail as well, you want there to be a lot of strength in there. You want it to look really wispy. And this haircut will give you just that.
That was a great question, Bon. Thank you for that question. We've got another question from Laura. My hands tend to be a bit shaky when I hold the comb and scissors parallel to the floor. Is there anything I can do to prevent this, Paul?
What, as like that?
Hands are a bit shaky, yeah.
Is it nerves, or is it just a bit of like a bit of, yeah? Is it nerves? Because if it is nerves, then they will go. But if it's just a little bit shaky, just take your time. It's no rush. Just take your time with putting in a great haircut. But if it does sort of disappear, it could just be because you're getting more competent, you're getting more familiar with doing the haircut, and you think, yeah, I'm on a roll.
How often do you do this one length below in your salon, Paul? One
length belows aren't, well, I say not massive. That the sort of long and sleek hair is coming back. I think a lot of people, especially with lockdown, they've seen their layers grow through and their hair become much thicker around the perimeter, and they quite liked it. And I think that was one of the things that really inspired this sort of super sleek, super straight length. So in the salon, I would probably do 3 a week, if I'm honest, myself personally, but we're probably doing at least 10, 15 a week throughout both salons.
Yeah, so it's still reasonably popular.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I did a casting a few years ago, and for a photo shoot, and there was a lot of models coming in. And I couldn't believe how many models, young girls, had a one length below.
Yeah,
it was like most of them had a one length below. Seems to be like, a very it girl kind of look.
Well, it is, isn't it? It's that real sort of the London look, I suppose, where it's just really looking really healthy looking hair. Because as soon as you put, not saying layers make hair look unhealthy, because they don't at all. But if you've got that really thick mane of hair that's just one length, super glossy from root to tip, I think that is the thing that really makes those girls go for that look.
Yeah, it looks expensive, doesn't it?
It looks very expensive, yeah. And when it's done well, you can see, like I was talking about earlier, where we were pulling that hair up here, creating that little bit of graduation. That's can make it not look expensive, because you've got that sort of just that little bit of a frayed edge, nothing like
doesn't look crisp.
Yeah, and that's what makes it look expensive. Like it looks as if they've had hair down to their ankles and it's just been took off super thick through the perimeter, and it's like, wow, like every girl's dream.
Laura says it's not nerves, but thank you.
Oh, okay, so not nerves, so it's just a little bit of shaking. I mean, yeah, like I said, just take your time. There's no rush. Yeah. Take your time in putting it in, and understand there is a little bit of a shake there. But you can just take your time and just, instead of like, if we moved quite quickly, so I suppose that would be something. If we had a little bit of a shake and we were moving quite quickly, I suppose we could be taking chunks away. But if we're shaking and we're just working through those sections like that, we're still going to get a really nice blunt line because you're working nice and slow. So I've just split the top section into the two sides, and you'll see, because the section goes below the crown, we end up with a bit of hair here. And if you can see, you can see that guide, that length. So we've still got that really nice blunt edge there, and then that's where we're going to take that off. And there's some on the sides as well. So that is all going to be coming back to here, and we're going to be taking that off. The same with the sides. We've got one more section on either side from the top section, and then that's where it gets a little bit different to create this fringe.
Love that fringe. Looks very. That fringe looks expensive.
Yeah, and yeah. So it's the Lee Stafford long grad. I've been doing this fringe now since lockdown. When we were doing all the lives in lockdown, and I was having a real play. I was in here pretty much every day because I had nothing else to do, and I was just having a mess about with all the recipes and different haircuts and trying to mash them together and disconnecting pieces. And I wanted to come up with a really simple way to put a fringe in. These bangs that people were just craving.
Yeah.
People were sort of like holding them and then slicing them and then trying to like just cut them at an angle. Wait till you see this. This is literally pulled out, cut up, over directed, cut, and it falls. Done.
Yeah. Easy. Nice.
So I'll just finish the perimeter and then we'll get into a little bit of refining because we do the clippers as well. So I'm just going to clipper the perimeter.
Paul, I mean, how important do you think it is now within the salon to be environmental friendly? And is there anything that you're doing up and above to make that happen?
I think just being conscious. I think there's with hairdressing, like there's recycling foils, there's the recycling of the tint tubes, there's the boxes because they're cardboard. But just being quite conscious of not over wasting, I think, is one of the biggest things. We're not doing anything ourselves as a over and above to be getting people to recycle our foils or anything like that, but it will definitely come. The world is definitely changing, and I think lockdown made people understand different things that were happening. But as a salon, as a business, it's quite difficult. It's quite difficult to get all these things in motion quite quickly if you weren't in the process of doing it. But I think the cost of our wastage as well. Me and James Atkinson, and we were talking about the mannequin heads. There's a lot of plastic here in them, and is there something in the future for them? Are they going to be, I don't know, something that can be really biodegradable? Because the hair, that will just go, won't it? The hair will break down and that. But when it comes to foil, like I said, and it's something that will come in, but the cost of it to like the planet, with regards to other things, because hairspray used to be the thing, didn't it, for the ozone? People were always saying, oh, these hairdressers, they're using too much hairspray and it's ruining the ozone layer. But then it repaired over a few years when carbon emissions and everything were cut down in cars as well. So I think, we definitely see the benefits of it. And I think it's something that we will do, just bringing things in. When it's easier, I think is the thing I'm looking for.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about it, isn't there, at the moment?
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk, and I think hopefully with talk, there's going to come a lot of action, isn't there?
Yeah, because it's not easily accessible really at the minute. I do know there's a scissor company called Leaf Scissors, and they plant a tree for every scissor bought. So if somebody is environmental that way inclined to look after the planet straight away, then Leaf Scissors, like they do, these aren't Leaf Scissors, but I know they will plant a tree for every scissor bought. I think that's what they were doing. So
how much do you pay for your scissors, Paul? Just as a matter of interest. I mean, and how much do you need to pay for a good pair of scissors?
I don't think you need to pay a lot of money for a pair of scissors. I think guess the name of these. They're called the name of your firstborn.
Angel?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
These are called the Angel, Mataki. They were limited edition. There was only 2 pairs made, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they must have been pretty expensive then.
Well, yeah. So they are, but I'm sort of sponsored by Mataki, so I get mine for cheap. But yeah, I mean these ones here, I think they were $579.
That's expensive for a pair of scissors, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
How much do you need to spend, do you think? Could you spend 75 quid to get a nice pair? You could, couldn't you?
Yeah, 75 to 120. And you could get in that price range, anything you're using with that would be completely fine. I know James Atkinson telling me again a story. There was a Sassoon hairdresser that he worked with, and she used to buy her scissors from Boots, the $7.99 ones. She'd just buy a pair. She'd buy a pair every month.
Really?
Yeah.
What, and they were okay?
Yeah, they cut hair.
Well, there you go. £7.99. Was that
From
what it
Boots.
was?
Yes, $7.99 from Boots. She would she'd buy a pair every month when they sort of got a bit blunt, and that was that.
But there's nothing worse though, is there? If you cut hair and the hair just folds.
No, and that's where they need to be maintained. So I don't think enough hairdressers maintain their scissors. So oiling the joints, oiling the blade, keeping it all nice and clean, making sure that you give them a brush in like the pivot, because you can get a lot of hair build-up in there as well, and that's where you can start to feel a little bit of like sort of chunking.
Yeah,
and it's happening in the sort of mechanics of the scissors rather than the blade.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm just putting. So one thing that we talk about as well is when we're working on the sides, we talk about there's no shoulders. So if there was shoulders, we could pull that back, rest it on the client's shoulder, and we could cut it. But because there's no shoulders, and we're going down in these little sections, there's only little bits of hair. We can see our guide. The guide is just there. Just comb that again. And we pull it back, and then we're just taking that off. Because it's quite impossible to cut inside out if you're holding it. Because if you're holding it like that, and your body's coming across like this to try and cut, it's quite impossible. So this is why when we've come to these top sections, side sections, when we've only got these little bits of hair to take off, we can bring it back and we can just take those off. We're going to drop the last section down now. But how's
any questions, guys? Any questions, Paul or myself? Any questions at all, guys? Keep them coming.
Who's doing the one length below at the minute? Are you struggling with it? Is this helping? Is it something that is a bit of an easier haircut that you think that you can do, or do you find it quite challenging? And what challenges do you have? I'd love to know in the comments, because one of the challenges that I want to address today is the fringe, because I think a lot of hairdressers at colleges aren't showing enough variants of putting fringes in. And then you get onto the salon floor and then someone comes in and wants these bangs. It's like, oh my God, I've only learned how to do that or that. How do I do that? So just mashing up these recipes together just gives us a great understanding of what we can do and what we're capable of. We speak about this a lot on our lives, that you can mash all these haircuts together. Yes, we give you a number of haircuts that will see you through your career with the graduated bob, uniform layer, long grad, short grad, and everything. The two blunt cuts below and above. But then when we mash them together, we can really start creating some different looks. And I think that's where you have to open your mind. It's not thinking, right, one length below, one length below. It's like one length below, but they want a bit of layering at the front. So we could do a uniform layer at the front. We could do the long grad. We could do stuff like that. Bring this back. So you can see there, I can still, the reason for it is that we hold the hair now is because I can see my guide from the front to there, and there's not much hair there. If you can see, look at them little wispy bits. So we're just pulling this back away from the face, and then instead of cutting it there, we're pulling it round. So we're seeing our line, and we just cut that.
Oh, we lost you then, Paul.
Oh, you lost me. Oh,
We lost you, Amber. Yeah.
Oh. Well,
we're back though. We're back.
Cool. Right. So that's the perimeter done. So can you see that angle?
I love that angle. It's so effortless and seamless, isn't it?
So there, and it just comes down. If we were to pull that down, down to
And
there.
it gives you the perfect balance on both sides, doesn't it? It's
Unbelievable.
a dream, isn't it? It's an absolute dream.
I mean, if I'd have learnt these haircuts at college, I'd have probably developed quicker. If I'm honest, I really struggled with haircutting. It's something I really had to invest a lot of time in myself to really understand cutting hair. I didn't really get angles. I didn't understand all of that. And then when I invested all my time into really understanding angles, over direction, under direction, that was a big learning curve for me. Under directing hair, what that created. Right. So there's our one length. Doesn't she look lovely? Just tighten her up a bit.
Love her.
Right, I'm going to spin it. What am I going to work? This way. So I'm going to show you the fringe. And it's just a little section. Let me clip these sides out. And then you'll be able to see that sectioning better. So see that triangle there? So that's basically a smaller triangle than what comes from recession to just below the crown. We've just got a small internal triangle in there. And what I do first is I'll pull it all down, work from that middle. So get that nose and then get a little section through there and work out where we want to go. So if they want it quite short, bangs, we can go there. Want it quite long, we can go nose. I just had it here and I just cut it. I rested my finger on the bridge of the nose and just cut that like that. Can you still see me? Are you still there, Lee? I can't hear you. Let me know in the comments. Oh, there we go.
I'm back.
Oh, okay. I thought it froze for a second there.
It did freeze. It did freeze. There were a few technical issues. Bond said, one of my students said, as a beginner hairdresser, holding hair for a long graduation is challenging when cutting the interior. What tips would you give there, Paul?
Today students learn long grad is challenging when cutting the interior. So through here, so what are we talking the back where we're bringing it up to the ceiling, or are we talking the angle, Bon? Because both would just be body position for one. So we make sure we're comfortable. We've got our guide in, and then we are comfortable there. Not taking too much hair in your fingers as well. That could be a point where if they're struggling to bring too much hair up. And what that would be, if you're struggling to bring too much hair up, then you could get a bit of bagging at the back. So what I would do is just, if they've got small hands, just put it in half. Pull up one side, so like the front bit, we cut that, drop that, and then we pull up this piece, keep pulling that up. And then I'd move on to that back section. If that's the reason, let me know, Bon.
Follow the line up. Follow the line up. Is that right?
Yeah, follow it up. So we'd pull up that front piece to there, cut it, and then we'd move back, pull it up, and then where we finished, we'd then cut up again. But this fringe, you can do it in one. So we're just going to split that side over there. In one section, I mean, it's a really small section, but it's in two. So I'm using that first guide, pulling that up, and then we've got this little piece here, which is just that little bit extended on the sides. And like the long grad, we pull up 45 degrees, and we're over directing that into the middle. So I'm going to pull that to there now, so you can see. So there. You can see that, yeah?
Yeah.
We find our guide. And then there's our 45 degree angle there. Here's our 45 degree angle there. And then let's just cut that up there. And then we're bringing this last piece over into that middle, over direct. And that's that side.
Emilia, I think it's Emilia from one of Bond's students, says, what's your favourite haircut, Paul? Why? What's your favourite LSC hair?
Long grad. Long grad is my fave. The balance it gives, it's just perfect. It's that where you struggle as a student and as a hairdresser. Oh yeah, put it out there. We all struggle with balance. We're not sort of like spirit levels. It's getting that and make sure your body position's correct and make sure your comb's there and your scissors are there. We all have those issues where it's like, am I over there and stuff. So with the long grad, it just gives us perfect symmetry. And that fringe there, let me just so you can see that there, it just kicks off, and that's it, done. Did it in 2 sections.
Very nice.
So we're going to split that again.
And where you split it from, Paul? From the middle?
Yeah, so that first guide, like we always do with the long grad, which was there, and then we put our guide in, don't we? So then we work through the middle of it, and then
so it's a parallel section you're doing right next to it.
Right next to it, because this section here then is elevated 45 degree, but over that middle section, isn't it? So there's my middle section there. If I cut it there, we would lose length on the exterior of this fringe, but because we're over directing it and elevating just over that parting, it just extends it slightly.
Gotcha.
And then here, this piece here, so you can see that's already getting a little bit longer. We pull this over.
Right to the middle. So it's a classic short grad.
Yeah.
It's a classic short grad.
And then we'll just cut that in. And you can see how that's got longer here. We've got that middle section sitting around about the brow, the bridge of the nose. And then that extends out there. That extends out there. There's your fringe. Done.
Lovely.
So
very nice.
We're just I'll just comb that through so you can see how it sits. Then we just brush all that through. And then your client's got a super cool fringe and a banging one length haircut there.
Yeah.
So let's just grab the finished result.
Very nice.
But any questions, guys, just let me know.
Any questions for Paul on that haircut? Anything whatsoever? Keep them coming, guys.
But now you should be able to see what we did. So there's the...
It looks so elegant. It looks so elegant and expensive.
Look at that line.
Well done. It really does. It looks beautiful.
I mean, that's just scissor cut as well. I haven't clippered that. That is just scissor cut.
So why would you clipper it now?
Why would I? Just if there was any little stragglers or if there's a bit of... Because there will be a little bit of possible under direction, over direction. But because we're bringing it all back and it's one length, it's all traveling to the same point. But to be honest, there isn't really. If I wanted to just make it a little bit sharper, then I would clipper it, and I will clipper it so you can see. But then you can also see that fringe. So that's how that sits dry.
Fringe is lovely.
And then if they just wear that hair up.
Very nice.
Where's that edge?
There. Yeah.
Like it's perfectly balanced.
It's very nice. What does everyone think, guys, of that haircut that Paul's done? He's done the mash-up, one length below, with the long grad as a fringe. What's everyone's thoughts on the result? Just a thumbs up, thumbs down. What's everyone thinking?
Oh, I thought you said there's a thumbs down then. Right, so what we'll do now is we'll just brush it all down because I'll add a little bit of a play with it. And then we'll get the clippers out. And we're not talking about going in and putting in a hard line. All we're looking for is just to polish. And I think this is one thing that hairdressers as well, we love to do. We love to refine haircuts and just polish. But it's just a case of just taking off and leaving on It's not what you take off, it's what you leave on, basically. So we're just going to look, and then you can see okay there. And then I'm just going to go in.
How long have we worked together?
We've worked together since 2014.
Wow, 7 years.
Yeah.
7 years.
Yeah, so 2013 you came into my salon, do education, and 2014 is when I came to Chelmsford.
Gone so quick, isn't it? Amazing technique, Laura said. I've never seen a fringe cut wet before. Martin said, works really well and looks banging.
Oh,
nice
good.
pun, Mark.
But look, I've just polished that off there.
Yeah, lovely. It's just for polishing it off, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's in there.
Love
Still
the
got
way that just drop down. It's just beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I'll show you if you want. We've got 4 minutes left. I'll show you with the fringe just what we can do just to sort of polish that as well if you want to. You don't need to, in my opinion. But if you thought, oh, I want, my client wants a little bit more texture, so we'll put a little bit more texture in there. Let me just drop her down so you can see. She's got nice lipstick as well, this one, isn't she?
Yeah, she has. She's beauty. She's got a unique look, hasn't she?
Yeah, she's got eyelashes.
Yeah, eyelashes.
So you can see how blunt that is there. So your client might want it a little bit softer, or they might want a softer interior of the fringe where it's sitting on the forehead and a bit stronger towards the outer sides of the fringe. So what we would do, give it an inch, and then we could just, so I'll show you that, and then I'll show you it that way, like that. So still the same finger angle, still the same cutting angle, and I'm not taking length off, I'm just chipping in, and we're just softening that off, and you can see that already. See that in the middle?
Yeah, just lovely.
Give it a little bit of softness there. And again, we don't want to, when we're doing this, we don't want to be cutting where it comes from. We want to be pushing it over to that middle bit. So we cut it where we cut it. Because if we cut it here...
It's like we do with the long grad, right?
Exactly the same, yeah. Because if we cut it from where it lives now, rather than where we elevated to, what do you think would happen? That's the last question, if you guys can get the answer in last minute. And then we can...
what was that question again, Paul?
So last question is, if I was to cut the hair where it's living rather than where it was cut from, what would we get?
Well, it's a good question. Guys, you've got a couple of minutes to come up with the answer. What result would we get different to cutting the hair where it lives or over directing it to the middle?
But there we go. There she is.
So what would the difference be, Paul?
So difference would be if we cut it where it lives now. So if I cut these bits of fringe here, we'd have lost length, because what we want to do, we want to over direct them and elevate them to that middle point. So we maintain the length, and then we just texturize it. And then when they live there. So we're still maintaining that length when it comes to cutting the or texturizing that fringe.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Paul, I mean, it's literally 1 minute to 3. The timing is like so super professional. I think you'll all agree that Paul's delivered a fantastic masterclass again, something very, very simple, very true to our recipes and our fundamentals, but looks very, very classy, very expensive, but very commercial as well, Paul.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you really have done a great job with that guy, mate. I really appreciate you sharing this technique with us.
Pleasure,
thank you all for watching, guys. We've got another masterclass next week with Lydia Wolf, and Lydia's one of our staff. She's doing a twist on the ombre. But until then, Paul, thanks once again, mate. Thanks for everybody who's been watching. Have a wonderful week, and we'll catch up with you soon. Cheers, guys. Take care.